Okay. In the meantime, I will discuss with the chairman and see as to what is going to be the internal assessment thing. Let us get back to health and safety under the Factories Act of 1948. But before I start, I should tell you, please do not try and prompt after your time of 20 minutes is over. The class is to begin at 15 past. I'm giving you 5 minutes to join. But for some people, that is not good enough. So, I'm sorry, I'll not allow you after that. Otherwise, it takes time coming out and going in all the time. So that is one of the things that I must tell you at the beginning. Still somebody is prompting. Now, coming to your Factories Act of 1948, it comprises of, 5 chapters as such. This act, as we know, was initially passed in 1881 with the efforts of Major Moore in the Bombay factories. It was known as the Bombay Factories Act of 1881. Later on, it was revamped in 1935 to be called Indian Factories Act of 1935. And after independence in 48, we revamped it again, and it became an all-encompassing act called Factories Act of 1948. Now, we are supposed to deal with Chapter 3, which pertains to health, and the first section, first 10 section basically talks about different kinds of definition, scope, and other things of this particular act that you will do, anybody opting for HR and paper of IR in the second year. But here we will be looking at section 11, which ensures the cleanliness in the factory system. That is, this is statutory in nature. Now, what kind of cleanliness has to be maintained? It must be seen that factory is kept clean and it is free from all kinds of effluvia arising from drain, privy, or other nuances. The Act has laid down following provisions in this respect. Now, the production processes basically depends as to what kind of production process is. If it is a dry thing, is it creating effluvive, or if the water is used, then the water must be coming out of it, or remains of the production system may be coming out of it, or any kind of object that is coming out. There is a provision for each one of them. Section 1 of section 11 tells that all the accumulated dirt and refuse on floor, staircases, and passages in the factory should be removed on daily basis by sweeping it or by any other effective method. Suitable arrangements would be made to make the disposal of such dirt or refuse that is there. So basically they are saying that sweeping has to be done on everyday basis of the factory floors, staircases, and all other places in the factory. Subsection 2 talks about that at least once every week the floor should be thoroughly mopped by using disinfectant, and this is there, or you should wash it if not mopped. A provision is there, it can be washed, it must be washed. The water used should be mixed with disinfectant that is there. Similarly, we also have effective method of drainage of such materials that is to be there. That is, water, if logging occurs, is to be removed to the extent possible, which may collect on the floor due to some manufacturing process. So anywhere like tanneries and other places where water is used, that water must be drained properly and cleaned at all time. That is provided in section 11. It further says that to ensure that interior walls and roofs are kept clean, it is laid down that in subsection 3, part 1, whitewash or color wash should be carried out at least once in every 14 months. This is for the distemper or color wash that is being done. Color wash would be, say, using a lime, where whitewash is being done, that is to be repeated every 14 months. Now, where surface has been painted or varnished, or repair or varnish should be carried out, that period is, it should be done every 5 years, and if washable, then it should be done for every 6 months period that is there. Then subsection 3 tells that if they are painted or varnished, it must be smooth surface, and it should be done every 14 months. All doors, windows, and other framework which are of wooden or metallic shall be kept painted once every 5 years. If it is to do with the paint, then 5 years, but varnish is to be used every 14 months. The date on which such processes are carried out shall be entered in the prescribed register, which has to be maintained by all organizations in the factory. We further find that every occupier of the factory shall make effective arrangement for the treatment of wastages and effluvives. It must be inoculated and disposed of at safe locations, or it should be buried. The state government or central government may prescribe norms for the same. Right. Section 13 talks about the ventilation and temperature. Now I'll go back a bit. So section 12 talks about those disposal of wastes which are being carried out. Section 13 talks about ventilation and temperature that has to be maintained in the factory. It says that, as per the Factories Act of 1948, every factory must provide that suitable arrangement and effective provisions are there for securing and maintaining adequate ventilation by circulation of fresh air in the factory rooms. Now, such temperature as considered secure to the workers' reasonable conditions of comfort and prevent injury to health, because if it is too warm, then health hazards are there. Therefore, what is reasonable temperature depends upon the circumstances of each case. The state government has the power to lay down standards for maintenance of temperature. Now, measures should be there to reduce excessive high temperature. That is, fans should be used or desert cooler should be used, and where necessary, it must be through the use of air conditioners if there. Now, walls and roofs shall be of such material and so designed that reasonable temperature does not exceed, but kept at a as low as possible. Now, that is, while constructing the building, this provision has to be taken care of. Where the nature of work carried out in the factory generates excessive high temperature, following provision should be there: separating such process from the workroom or insulating the hot parts. So if that is the case where processes creates high temperature, it should be isolated by insulation or separate rooms. Now, it must adopt any other effective method which will protect the workers, and the chief inspector is empowered to direct any factory to adopt such methods which reduces excessive high temperature which is there. Then we also talk about the dusts and fumes. There are certain manufacturing process like chemical, textile, jute, which generates lot of dust and fume or other impurities. It is injurious to the health of workers employed in such manufacturing process. Therefore, measures should be adopted in this respect, where effective measures should be taken to prevent the inhalation of accumulation of dust, fumes, etc. in the workroom. Now, for that, mask or other means should be utilized. Wherever necessary, an exhaust appliances should be installed or fitted as far as possible to the point of origin. Dust, fumes, and other impurities arise. Such point shall also be enclosed as far as possible. So if you are using cotton openers or you are using any other process like, saw is used for wood, then dust are obvious in those factories, and therefore provision should be made that it should be covered from all sides. In stationary internal combustion engine, an exhaust should be connected into the open air. Now, wherever you use internal combustion engines like generator set, it should be having an exhaust which should be carried outside in the air so that you don't get fumes coming into the factories. In case of other internal combustion engines, effective measures should be taken to prevent the accumulation of fumes. And for this, section 14 provides that it may be pointed out that evidence of actual injury to health is not necessary if the dust and fumes by reason of manufacturing process is given off in such quantity that is injurious or effective to the health of the workers. Now here, the offense committed is continuing offense, and therefore every factory must create measures to rectify this. Now, section 15 talks about artificial humidification. That is artificially how humidity increases. Humidity means the presence of moisture in the air. In certain industries like cotton, textile, cigarette, etc., higher degree of humidity is required for carrying out the manufacturing process. For this purpose, humidity of the air is artificially increased. This increase or decrease in humidity adversely affect the health of the workers. Now, section 15 talks about the power of the state government to prescribe rules and standards of humidification. Subsection 2 talks about regulating methods to be adopted for artificially increasing the humidity and the methods to adopt for securing adequate ventilation and cooling of air in the workrooms which are there. Section 15.2 lays down water used for artificial humidification should either be purified before use or obtained from public supply, the other sources of drinking water. It simply means that measure should be there that water that is used for drinking water and water which is used for manufacturing process should not be from the same tank or source that is there. Where the power is not purified, where the water is not purified, as stated above, section 15.3 empowers the inspector to order in writing the manager of the factory to carry out specified measures before a specified date for purification of water which is there. Now, section 16 talks about overcrowding in the factories. Now, overcrowding in the workroom not only affect the workers, their efficient discharge of duties, but their health also, and therefore subsection 1 of section 16 talks about a provision for the prohibition of overcrowding in factory rooms to the extent it injures the health of the workers. Apart from this general provision is there under section 16 for working space for each factory. Now it says that 14.2 cubic meters of space per worker in every factory room should be available, and for calculating the work area, the space more than 4.2 meters above the level of the floor will not be taken into consideration. So it is only up to 4.2 2 height that is taken, and total space should be 14.2 cubic feet. Now here provisions are there for factories which are old factories and factories which are new factories. Now if the factory was built prior to the commencement of this Act of 1948, the space provided is not 14 but 10 square feet that is there. Now let us look at it once again. Section 16(3) empowers the Chief Inspector, who may direct in writing the display of notices as far as the number of people in a room is concerned, and the exemptions may also be granted by these inspectors. Now what happens that if the factory was built after the commencement of the Act of 1948, then it is 14.2, otherwise it is 10 cubic feet of space that is to be provided. Section 17 talks about lighting that is to be provided in the factories. It says that every factory must provide and maintain sufficient and suitable lighting, both natural and artificial, or both, in every part of the factory where workers are working or passing through. Just 1 minute. It further says that every factory must provide and maintain sufficient suitable lighting, both natural and artificial. So it is not only that you have to provide lighting which is natural, but artificial as well. Now, both in every part of the factory where workers are working and passing. So it says that all the glazed windows and key lights should be kept clean on both sides. It further says that effective provision should be made for the prevention of glare from a source of light or by reflecting from smooth polished surfaces which are there. Now, formation of shadow to such an extent causing eye strain or the risk of accident should be removed, and the state government may empower to lay down standard for the light. Now, normally it says that light should be there, it should be fitted, artificial light should be fitted in a manner that there is zero shadow. So there should be lights from all sides of the walls as well as from the top. So all 4 sides of the wall and top should have the light so that there is a zero shadow that is formed. Every factory must also have the ventilators through which the light should be there apart from the windows which are there. So that is the provision which is there for lighting that is there. We also find that section 18 talks about provision of drinking water in the factories. Now every factory should make effective arrangements for sufficient supply of drinking water for all workers in the factory. Water should be wholesome, i.e. free from impurities. Water should be supplied in suitable points convenient for workers. Now, no such point should be situated within 6 meters of any washing places or urinals or latrines or spittoons, open drain carrying sewage or effluent or any other source of contamination unless otherwise approved in writing by the chief inspector. So the factory room should have water points, should be marked as drinking water. All such points should be legibly marked, as we said. In case we are more than 250 workers are employed on any given day, arrangement should be made for cool drinking water during hot weather. In such cases, arrangement should be made for the distribution of water to the workers. So it can be done through provision of earthen jars Uh, or it should be there that the water coolers are fitted in the factories. The state government is empowered to make rules regarding these provisions which are there, that wherever 250 or more workers are provided, they must be having drinking water which is cool. But nobody prevents people to provide cold water for less than 250 workers, right? So cool or cold water should be provided for every worker, but for 250, it is a must that is there, that it should be through the water coolers or other jars which are there. Section 19 talks about latrines and urinals. Now, the first thing is that it should be in sufficient numbers. There should be separate facilities for males and females, right? The chief inspector should communicate with every workroom except through an intervening open space of ventilated passage. All such accommodation should be maintained in clean and sanitary conditions. So now to maintain that in sanitary conditions, there is a provision that is there in this particular act. It says that if 250 or more workers are employed, then such factories should be, such latrines and urinals should be, having sanitary type, that is, tiles should be fitted up to 7 feet from the ground level. Or if it is less than 250 workers, then that should be having at least a smooth surface up to 7 meters. Now, it should be clean, sweeper should be appointed to clean it at all time, and it must also be having sufficient supply of water in the factories. We said both, latrines and urinals should be there for both females and males separately. That is the provision that has to be maintained. And the state government may prescribe number of latrines and urinals to be provided in every factory. Upon inspection, there is that number should be there. It should not be overcrowded, and therefore it should be, the spaces leading to the washroom should be kept clean at all time. Section 20 talks about spittoons. Now, in every factory, there shall be provision for sufficient number of spittoons at convenient places, and they shall be maintained in clean and hygienic conditions, right? Now, the state government may make rules prescribing the type and number of spittoons to be provided in every factory. No person shall spit within the premises of the factory except in the spittoons which are being provided. And whoever spits in contravention of section 3 shall be punishable with fines which are there as far as the spittoons are concerned. Now it says that they must have one spittoon for every 20 members in the factory. Those sand baskets should be there, or sand buckets should be provided, and these sand should be cleaned or changed every week, and nobody should be allowed to spit outside these spittoons which are there. So that is as far as the provisions of health under the Factories Act of 1948 is concerned. Right? Now, we have got another provision which are there, and this is regarding the safety provisions that is being provided under the Factories Act of 1948. Let us look at the factory. Section 21 talks about fencing of machinery. This fencing can be done by the means suitable as prescribed by the inspector. For every factory, a moving part of a prime mover and every flywheel connected to the prime mover, whether the prime mover or flying wheel is in engine, house or not, it must be fenced, right? the head care and tail care of every water wheel and water turbine should be there. So head race and tail race should be there. So any part of the stock bar which project beyond the head stock of the lathe machine should be fenced, unless they are in such position as construction to be safe to every person employed in the factory, as they would be if they are securely fenced. Now, every part of an electric generator or motor or rotary converter should be fenced. Every part of the transmission machinery should be fenced. Every dangerous part of any other machinery shall be securely fenced by safeguards of substantial construction, which shall be constantly maintained and kept in position while the parts of machinery they are fencing are in motion or in use, which are there. Now, it is provided that the purpose of determining whether or not any part of the machinery is in such position or is in of such construction as to be safe or aforesaid account. Now, it is necessary to make examination of such parts that is there, and it should be fenced if required. In the case of any part of transmission machinery used in such process, as many be prescribed being process of continuous nature, that should also be fenced. It also says that the state government may prescribe rules for fencing of these machineries which they deem fit, and the inspector should deal with this particular part. Now, section 22 talks about workmen who are working on or near machinery in motion. Now, where in any factory it becomes necessary to examine any part of machinery referred to in section 21, while machinery is in motion or as a result of such examination to carry out, in a case referred to in clause 1 of the provisions to subsection 1 of section 21, lubrication or other adjustment operations is made, or in case referred to in clause 2 of the proviso aforesaid, any mountaining or shipping or belts or lubrication or other adjusting operation should be there. Now, these people should be provided with proper clothing. It should be tightly fitted, and they must also ensure that they are not wearing clothes which can be caught by the shaft. So loose shirts are not allowed. Dhotis or saris worn by ladies should not be allowed, or anything which has got a tail should not be allowed. So they must have a dress which are tightly fitted, a dress which is prescribed. In this regard, the worker shall not handle a belt at a moving pulley unless the belt is not more than 15 centimeter in width. The pulley is normally for the purpose of driving these and flying wheel or balance wheel which are used. Such belt in either laced or flush with the belt. The belt including the joint and pulley rim are in good repair. There is reasonable clearance between pulley and the fixed plant or structure which are there. They must secure foothold if the workers are working, that they don't slip out and injure themselves. Therefore, footholds and handholds should be there. No women or young person shall be allowed to clean or lubricate or adjust any part of the prime mover or any other transmission machinery while they are in motion. Right? So, young person as prescribed in the Factories Act of 1948, and women should not be allowed to lubricate the machines in motion or clean the belts, etc. Now, the state government may by notification in the official gazette prohibit in any specified factory or class of description of factories, the cleaning, lubricating, and adjusting of the machines by person specified part of the machine when those parts are in motion, that is there. Now, section 23 talks about employment of young persons on dangerous machines. Now, otherwise, all machines are dangerous, but this act has prescribed the machines. No young person shall be required to be allowed to work at any machine to which this section applies unless he has been fully instructed as to the dangers arising out of this machinery and has received sufficient instruction or training in work at the machines, or is under adequate supervision by a person who is having thorough knowledge and experience of these machines. Now, such person should be a trainer, and not any other worker. Subsection 1 shall apply for such machines as may be prescribed by the state government, where the young person should not be allowed to work. Now, one question that I must ask you: who do we call as young persons? Who are young persons, by the way? Anybody who can reply? Young person.
Age of less than 18.
And more than?
Age less than 18.
And more than?
10.
More than 10. Okay.
Or
Any other person?
So who are new at job?
Who has?
Who are new at this job?
No, that is not the right. They have
Maybe
prescribed
12.
age for
More
it.
than 12.
Now, see, they are saying that they should be more than 14 and less than 18. So it is basically 14 and a half to 18 years of age. They are called young persons, right? Anybody who has crossed the age of 12 but has not crossed the age of 14 and a half would be called as adolescent, right? The adolescents are in this particular age group of more than 12. Anybody who is less than 12 is a child, right? And anybody who is 18 years or more is called an adult, right? So this is the definition that is provided in the Factories Act of 1948. And when we talk about employment of young persons, we are talking about less than 18 and more than 14 years of age people who in certain circumstances are allowed to work, but their working hours and other things are being maintained by the inspector of the factories. Okay. Section,
Sir?
yes.
So what is the legal age for children to work in dangerous factories?
See, we said that nobody until they are mature, 18 years of age, should be allowed to work, right? But in certain cases, people who are young persons are also allowed to work in the factories, and this is the provision that we have seen in this particular section 23 provides that they should not be allowed to work in the factories unless they are instructed upon and are working under a supervisor as a trainee. Their working hour is also reduced from 9 hours to 5.5 hours only, right? They are not allowed to work in night shifts. All those conditions we will see in the later sections which are being given, right? Now, section 24 talks about striking gear and devices with cutting off power. In every factory, suitable striking gear or other efficient mechanical appliances should be provided and maintained and used to move driving belts to and from fast and loose pulleys which form part of the transmission machinery which are there. Now, these driving belts, when not in use, shall be allowed to rest or ride upon the shifting in motion which are there. Sorry. Every factory should have suitable device for cutting off power in emergencies from running these machinery. We should be at the closest of distance from the operating points, right? Now it further says that the inspector, Sarah pointed, to inspect and prescribe the places where it should be there. So if any danger arises, it should be switched off from the convenient point that is there, which is the nearest to such machines which are in operation. Normally, the switch should be there attached to the machine itself. Now, section 25 talks about self-acting machines. Now, self-acting are automated machines. No traversing part of self-acting machines in any factory and no material carried thereon shall, if the space over which it runs is a space over which any person is liable to pass. So from wherever the automated machines are used and it is machine which are moving, the passage to human beings should not be there, right? It further says that the distance of 45 centimeters should be there. It provided that chief inspector may permit the continued use of machines installed before the commencement of this act, which does not comply with the requirements of this particular section which is there. Now, section 26 talks about casing of a new machinery. In any machinery driven by power and installed in any factory after commencement of the Act of 1948 shall be every set screw bolt or any other key on any revolving shaft, spindle wheel or pinion shall be of sunk, encased and otherwise effectively guarded as to prevent dangers. So all the bolts, other things should be properly guarded or should be kept under, and there should be provision to cover that part. All spur worm and other toothed or friction gearing which does not require frequent adjustment while in motion shall be completely encased unless it is so situated as to be safe as it would be if it provides completely enhanced. That is there. Whoever sells or lets on hire or agents of the sellers or hirer, causes of procurers be sold or let to hire for use in the factory or machinery, the power which does not comply with the provisions of subsection 1 or should not be allowed and shall be punishable with imprisonment for the terms that is given, that is 3 months jail or a fine of 500 rupees that is prescribed in the Factories Act of 1948, and the state government may prescribe rules regarding this. Now we will look at section 27 onwards on the next step. Thank you.